job. I'm putting my shoe on back on. I had an itch on the bottom of my foot, and it bugs me to only have one shoe on and not the other.
I can imagine.
First world problem, really.
I've been part of 16, I don't even know now, 16 plus different startups in my career. So yes.
Yeah. So it's safe to say you're sort of a serial entrepreneur.
I've been told that before. Once we get there, if we just settle down, that's fine.
Give me a single or something, you know. Something that's Hey everybody, it's Rob Seaver. I'm Executive Director of LeadsCouncil. Of course, you already know that if you've watched these before. I'm bringing you this week's on-air podcast. Super exciting. Always say that, but this one is pretty cool because I'm bringing you somebody that's kind of outside of our inner circle, somebody that I've met just recently and have the pleasure of actually learning a little bit more about who he is, what makes him tick, what's going on with him in his world. And so I thought the story was so interesting that I really wanted to bring it to you guys. And so I'm here with Josh Friend. He's founder and CEO of Insellerate. If you're in the mortgage space, it's likely you already know this guy, you know his company. And so, Josh, thank you for joining us today. I'm super excited about this and can't wait to really kick it off.
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. I've enjoyed talking to you, so I'm sure we'll cover some interesting stuff here.
I try to make it interesting for sure.
I didn't get to choose the background lighting though. I'm disappointed.
Oh, well, wait a second. While we're here, you have a color choice. Which one will that be? It's red, green, blue, or some version of that?
You know what? That's actually blue because you already have blue, and it matches my background now that I look at it. So I think I just made that for no reason.
That was a whole waste of time.
That was a waste of time. Sorry about that. I didn't see your back. To be honest, you're on the other side of the screen. I couldn't see your picture until just.
Well, my head, this beard tends to get a little bit larger every time I film one of these. So I'm going to have to back further and further up with each week that goes on. Josh, help me understand. You live in Huntington Beach, is that right? Or you're based in Huntington Beach?
Our office is in Newport Beach. I live in Lisa Viejo, which is a little bit south of here.
That all seems like LA to me. So, I mean, is it just south of LA?
There's a Laguna Beach. There's the hill. There's like one hill in Laguna Beach, and the backside of the hill is the Lisa Viejo.
Got it. All right. I won't try to pronounce it, but you did so fluently that we'll let people decide. So I look back at your career, especially some of the education, and it was like Cal Polytechnic something. Did you get your degree there? Is that what it was? And
yeah, no, I actually the truth. I never finished my college degree. Oh. I went to be a civil engineer. I became a father at 22, my fourth year in school, and I had to get a job and support a family. And I went out and interviewed. I had it really narrowed down to a loan officer, which I really wanted the job at IndyMac Bank's first call center called LoanWorks. Wow. And that was in '99, or a plumber's apprentice, because the plumber's apprentice paid $60,000 apprenticeship. You know, at 22, I figured, hey, I could, afford to live. I knew that the mortgage industry was a great place to go. I got the job in the mortgage industry, and that was really where I started from. So within 3 years, I started my first mortgage company. Had, I don't know, by the time I was 26, had 100 plus employees. So I never went back to school because it just wasn't the time. Now I've had the fortune to go speak and be a guest lecturer at UCI in some of the classes. So, it is something I think there is value. One day I may go finish it, but civil engineer. That was got to
be all personally, because professionally, I can't imagine it's going to improve the odds of you succeeding based on where you are today. So, but good on you if you want to do it. I'll just tell you that.
Well, I want to teach. That's actually the reason.
Oh, well, hey, look, that makes more sense. And maybe that would be, So I've interviewed a lot of executives, a lot of people who are in the same type of spot that you're in, serial entrepreneur. We'll get into that here in a second. But when I asked them about like, hey, look, you said, hey, look, I'm either going to look at plumbing or I'm going to look at mortgage. I will tell you that that's a very odd combination, although I certainly could understand the financial side of it being appealing. But a lot of the people that I talked to when they were in high school or when they were growing up, I noticed on your LinkedIn profile, I saw that, you follow a lot of people I follow, Mark Cuban, Gary Vaynerchuk, and, from a Gary Vaynerchuk standpoint, I think since you follow him, you probably know a lot of his background. You know, he sold baseball cards, he mowed grass, and then he just rolled that money into the next job and continued to build to the empire that he has today. When you were, pre-college, and obviously you said you came out of it saying I could either go to this loan officer company or whatever. So there had to have been some, other than just knowing the mortgage market. Was there anything in that background that, started that entrepreneurial side?
The entrepreneurial side, yes. I mean, my first entrepreneurial ventures when I was in second grade, and I would go to school, and my parents would drop us off. Before school, I'd go to the liquor store. I could buy the atomic fireballs for a nickel and sell them for a quarter. I could buy a package of Now-and-Laters for 10 cents and sell each one for 5 cents, make 50 cents on that. And I'd buy those little toothpicks that were cinnamon toothpicks. Remember those things?
I do. I absolutely
those were
do.
like, I think you get like 10 or 15 in a package, and kids would pay you 10 cents for those. So I was selling candy. I would sell candy as second grade when I really started selling candy. And that's what gave me a couple extra dollars, $3 after school, so I could buy myself some candy and an ice cream or something. So that was, I started being an entrepreneur, selling candy. I sold fireworks in junior high, which got me suspended. It was a great.
I got suspended for a whole different reason, but we won't discuss that on this one.
Yeah, it was a great moneymaker. I mean, I had a big supply of fireworks, and I was selling them in school, and the kids at school. And unfortunately, one of the kids thought it'd be great to let off on the fireworks in the playground. And
of course, yeah.
And
and all good things come to an end.
All things, yeah, came to an end. I was always selling fireworks. I would fix things. I had a nickname in the neighborhood and with around friends, Mr. Fix It. You pay me a couple of bucks, I'd fix your bike, change your tire, your skateboard. I learned how to fix computers in junior high. So it was kind of, I did a lot of different little things. And so I've always been, in the entrepreneurial side of things.
You had mentioned, and we're going to get into this in a little bit, but you had mentioned, your father, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as it relates to a question about the military. But, I grew up without a parent or without a father, and I'm always envious of people. I have a next door neighbor that I call on routinely. He probably, cringes every time I text him or whatever, because I'm like, hey, I need a bolt tightened or, this done this way or that way. I never had that ability, or I never was exposed to it. And so now it's very foreign and very frustrating for me. What was that influence? I mean, how did you become Mr. Fix It? I mean, did you just do it on your own, or did you, was there an influence in your life that helped out?
Yeah, I mean, necessity was one. So as I sold candy in second grade, so I have enough money to buy myself candy. If it wasn't for that, there wasn't going to be any candy I was going to buy. So there was necessity kind of invented this ability for me to go learn how to do things. I guess, my father was mechanically inclined. It was something that he had been in the cell phone business. So when I was younger, he built briefcase phones, if you can imagine. A phone in a briefcase that he had all the batteries in the briefcase, you could carry it around. He's like, listen, you can have 45 minutes of talk time, and carry around this 50-pound thing with you, and you get 45 minutes of talk time. So I was around that, some electronics and just that type of entrepreneurial spirit, and it just made, I guess that's just what I thought was, what the world would look like. So I just started to do it.
Where did, and maybe it was just a money thing again, but was there an early fascination with mortgage and lending or real estate, or just I
have a good friend of mine, Steve Lee. He was my older brother Jack's one of his good friends from high school. I was 3 years younger than him. He was working at Loanworks with IndyMac Bank's first call center. Mm-hmm. And so I was 22 at the time. Steve would have been like 24, 25, and he was bragging, hey, I'm making like $15,000, $20,000 a month selling loans.
Wow.
And it was like, what do you do? Like this, I could sell. I had been working for, in high school and college, I worked for a good friend of mine's family that owned pet stores. And I said, listen, if I could sell a $1,500 dog and, $1,000 worth of leashes and, shampoo with it, and I set all the sales records at the pet store, that I'm sure I could sell selling a loan. And that's why I got in the mortgage business. Was just luckily Steve said, come work and, get you an interview. And he was actually the person that started my first mortgage company with. So then 3 years later, we left and started our first mortgage company. So, that's just lucky, very, very, very lucky and fortunate to fall into this industry.
God, I bet. I mean, did you at that point in time have a vision or dreams or foresight that it would eventually get into something like Insellerate? I mean, was there anything at that early stage that told you, hey, look, I'm going to land here?
Yeah. So there was about 23 to 24. I was in the mortgage business for a year. I did slightly for 1 year. I got involved in a venture my dad had. That was wireless internet access and voice recognition. I got involved in that, and in 1999, I actually won an award for the industry for the best internet telephony speech product that was built. So this was 20 something years ago. I had gotten involved in telephony and system integration stuff for about a year. And within a year's period of time, because there wasn't a whole lot of voice recognition experts out there, I became an expert. Wow. And so that knowledge of just systems, and I had done a road show in Wall Street. So I'd gone through the whole process of like just meeting the people. I thought, well, that's not foreign to me. So I started selling loans, and I'm bringing in, $500,000 a month in revenue for AnyMac Bank. And they're a great company. I thought, well, I'm 10% as good as this is my, if I brought in 50,000 for myself, I'm still going to get myself a pay raise. It's kind of a no brainer. And then that technology background, I used to be a computer programmer. So I'm as literally, if you look behind me,
oh, by the way, I was a computer
Well, I left this behind my desk. I put it up here. It's my computer. Actually, it's something that I kept around here. So all my programmers know that I at least have something. This is my, from junior high, my computer programmer of excellence award that I got. So that was, 30 years ago. So it was a background of mine. So it's not a foreign concept of programming. So we took that, and then I started building software in 2004 for myself. So this was, I had a point of sale solution in 2004 with a CRM. You could automate pricing, pull credit, run DU.
For the mortgage industry in 2004, right?
But it was just for me.
It was booming about that time, right before, right? Right before it was not going to boom.
That's right. So that was booming with technology. When the market crashed, realized I'm still in the mortgage industry, but I can't go out and build technology. It's a little different. Let's go use some off-the-shelf technology. And I did for a handful of years, and realized, okay, you know what? I need more than this now. The market continues to change. I need better systems, more integratable systems, and what was out in the marketplace just wasn't acceptable anymore. And then that's when we built Insellerate. So that was actually built for People's Bank. People's Bank was a group I got involved with in 2003, became a shareholder in the bank, invested in the bank, and then we brought a mortgage group underneath the bank and helped them grow from about 180 million a year in business to about 2.5 billion. So we launched the original platform to grow them. As lenders saw, hey, this is working great. How do you do what you do? We started selling to other lenders, decided this was really a business that we could get into, and rebuilt the platform about 4 years ago. And that's kind of where we are today with it. No, I'm not in the mortgage industry anymore, which kills me every day right now. And I'm ecstatic for my lenders. They're crushing it, but I've never seen a time right now like it is right now in the mortgage industry with the margins, with the capacity demands. It's, I told the lender today who's launching a new consumer direct group, I said, listen, in markets like this, even bad loan officers make you money.
Wow. That's crazy. And Josh did a nice thing right there. He jumped the timeline so much further. I'm going to jump back because I need to know a little bit more about a couple of things. First of all, You were in the sports, right?
Yep.
And you played football?
Yep.
And what position?
I was offensive tackle.
Did you get hurt?
Yes, actually was just at my, I just saw an orthopedic yesterday. I had 4 knee surgeries from 19 to 22. So I ended my football career really, really quick.
No. Yeah. Was that part of possibly a career path when you first were playing football?
Not to sound braggadocious, I was 6'4", 290 pounds, and I could jump 32-inch vertical and ran a 4.9 40. So that was 20 years ago. That still is, for an offensive lineman, it would be what some NFL players would probably be at today. I didn't have the desire to like that. I wasn't like, gosh, I want to be in the NFL or something. For me, it was a way to try to get to college. And the truth of it is, if you look at the NFL players, 80% of it's not getting hurt. right? Because they're just so easy, you can damage your body so easily when you're that big, and hitting people that hard, it's people get hurt. I think the average career is like 13 months or something in the NFL. People don't really last. So I think that's the difference.
Well, as you were giving your stats, I could relate to at least one. We're very similar on one of those stats, and it wasn't the 6'4" one. Just so there was something interesting you and I talked about just right before we started this. That I shared with you that I had been in the Navy when in the mid 80s to early 90s. Was an air traffic controller, and you shared with me something that I did not see on your profile, but you almost went into the Air Force. Is that correct?
That is, yeah. I wanted to go. My dad was in the Marines, and I always remember him talking about, just the experiences, because where else you can't pay enough money to get an experience of being on an aircraft carrier in the middle of the Arctic Sea and the middle of the night, or some of these places they would go to in crazy parts in the middle of Africa or remote islands and stuff like that. I'm adventurous. That seems this would be a lot of fun. It's a great career. I like the idea of not have to worry about room and board, or my father was an entrepreneur. Unfortunately, most of the time not successful. So there was a lot of challenges with that. So the thought of stability was like, this is amazing. But I decided that I don't think I have the right aptitude to be in the military. I'm a little too rebellious.
The structure didn't appeal.
Oh, it did. I mean, I thought it would, but it really did. I mean, it might have been good for me at that age to give myself some more structure, but I got the congressional nomination, I got in, and then I decided towards the last minute not to go. I mean, they're going to march you to breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They make sure you're going to get hazed by upperclassmen. Right? It was you knew that that they're letting you know that you're in the military. It's not college at first. So I said, thank you for telling me all this. It's probably not the right time for me to do this.
We saved each other a lot of time.
That's right. Yeah. So I didn't go in the Air Force Academy. Why not? So I went to Cal Poly instead.
Well, I will tell you that I am thankful that I went into the military, because it probably was the right choice at the right time. I was not heading anywhere fast, and so that did help me get back to where I needed to be focused. You talked about, and I want to visit a little bit, because the mid 2000s seemed to be something where they were the best of times and the worst of times. And share with me a little bit. I mean, you had just launched a platform at the height. You developed software, you were servicing the industry, I guess, at some capacity, or you had some customers, I guess. And, I would imagine 2007-ish, maybe. So you'd had a couple, 3 years under your belt. Is that what it was? Or had something else come along? As I interview people who were in the space during that time, the one thing that I can tell you is that I don't think anything caught anybody by surprise. I think that most people, one, felt it was coming or knew it was coming, and then other people who knew it and just denied it, they really knew. But for you, did you know when you started in 2004 that there was going to be a finite time for at least a short period of time, or what impact did it have on you?
Yeah, it definitely had an impact. I mean, in the mortgage industry, you couldn't have been in the industry without it having an impact. So I mean, it being an entrepreneur, and the term serial entrepreneur is what I fit under. It definitely, I had a lot of early success. We were making a ton of money. We had looked at getting our company evaluated, potentially to sell. We had people that were interested in buying us for lots of money. Went from looking to sell the company for $50 to $60 million. I had buyers that were interested, to me and my partners all writing checks for, I think it was like they're $100,000 to $300,000 a piece to shut the business down, and 12 months later. So it was, after that so at that young age, yes, that's
such a happy story.
Real happy story. Yeah, it's a happy story. And we wrote money, and we lost money as we shut the business down. So I learned a ton.
Yeah.
Made a ton of, I learned a ton. I mean, it gave me capital to launch the next thing, but it really was, it turned my business on the head. My two business partners at the time, we parted ways. We're still really good friends. It's just, we had different aligned interests. Something I've learned about being in a lot of partnerships now is like understanding what someone really wants from a transaction, what's their interest, what value do they bring to the table, what value do you bring to the table, what's the shared vision do you have? And we just didn't have that at all. You know, we were all different visions. We had one person invested and was making a ton of money and was like, hey, whatever you guys want to do is great because, you know, you've paid me back 30x already, so I'm happy. And then, you know, my business partner that ran it daily wanted a small shop, and I wanted to grow something big. So, you know, just, you know, unaligned interests, but definitely made a different. I didn't see it coming. I mean, I don't know if you've watched or read the book, The Big Short. I'm sure you
love the movie, love it.
So I read the book too,
Okay.
if you watch it, because it has more stories behind it. And I remember, so I sold loans to Fremont Investment Loans. I was one of their biggest sellers. So I was one of the biggest sellers that sold to Fremont. Fremont was subprime. I remember giving them tapes and saying, here's what our volume is going to look like. Here's what our loans are going to look like. And then tapes mean in the mortgage industry, what you can do. And you can say, I'm going to deliver to you $50 million in loans. The average LTV is going to be 70%. The average FICO is going to be 625. Nothing below 580, you know, nothing above whatever, or, you know, nothing below a certain below point.
And these were the bundles that you would sell? Okay, yeah. Because that's what they talked about inside of The Big Short, right?
Yeah, is what they did with those bundles. So I remember looking at the people are buying, and I said, and they're coming to us and they, well, no, we can let you lower that FICO all the way down to, you know, 5, whatever. And I just said to myself, would you guys, this stuff works? Like
They were actively seeking everything. Any number that would just fit into a bundle so that they could buy it.
Yeah, I mean, that hasn't changed. Just think about and it wasn't, if you look at if you really look at what happened, it wasn't just the one bundle of loans that crashed the economy. What happened was Wall Street then took that one bundle of loans and figured out a way through CDOs to then sell that same transaction over and over and over and over again. So when that one pool had a 20% loss or a collapse, it wasn't just that one pool, that one group of investors, it was 50 other people. Mm. So that's what, you know, and so anyways, The Big Short, one of the things I remember asking the questions, this stuff performs? And and the buyer said, oh no, we've had the rating agencies, they rate this stuff all AA or A or AAA, they know how it performs. Now watching, I was 26 at the time, I didn't realize, you know, that the rating agencies didn't know what they were talking about and how they were averaging, you know, or put 800 FICO scores with 500s, put them together and telling people they're 700, which does not perform, right? And if you look at a tranche of loans, if you have 5-10% of them that go bad, the whole thing can collapse. Like the whole value, the mortgage-backed security can lose value. And, you know, I don't know if you watched or knew much about the CDOs, but you could buy. And so what it was is originally companies, if you're a company like Ford and you want $100 million in a loan, if you will, you get a loan from whatever bank. That investment bank says, I want to insure that risk. So they'll pay another bank, you know, 50 basis points a year to insure that $100 million loss. So really what happens is like both banks are lending that person money, right? Bank A is collecting 2% because they're, you know, their cost of funds, and then Bank C is getting 50 basis points of that. So they're getting 50 and Bank A gives 150, Bank C gets the 50 basis points. So you could balance the kind of credit insurance. So mortgage-backed securities did the same thing. I have $100 million in subprime loans. I want to buy insurance against this from being in default. So I could buy an insurance policy. So people bought insurance policies. Well, what happened was people were bundling those insurance policies and just selling them as like basically more or less mortgage-backed securities. And people were wanting to be in that transaction. We're just buying this. Okay, this is what it looks like. And it wound up being the same return as if you were to buy the pool anyways. And, you know, they were just selling the same thing over and over, amongst other things. And then once that collapsed, it collapsed really, really, really fast and really hard.
So you made a comment though. I mean, you said not much has changed. Is it, or did I misunderstand that?
As far as how they do with the CDOs and no, that has changed. But now it's reopened in a whole other financial sector now. So they're going back into some corporate debt, and they're doing, and you can do the same thing again right now. You can start buying CDOs and basically trading against the downfall of the economy. So, and what I mean by not much has changed is, if you look at the structure, Wall Street money managers have to have deals come across their desk. And that's how our institutions work, right? It's transactions. And this person makes a quarter point, this person makes a half a point, and they're 10 basis points here, 100 basis points here. And as long as you're buying and selling equities or stocks or bonds or moving money, you keep getting money. Like if you can't buy something with it, no one's going to give you the money. So we're set up for just do transactions, and the economy's set up to just do as many transactions as possible. That hasn't changed.
So bizarre. I mean, obviously around that time, right afterwards, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was created to help throw it off some of these things so that we wouldn't see another financial crisis of the same. And of course, that's actually when I first got into the council. The CFPB was probably the largest and most aggressive agency that was impacting the market at the time. Yeah. And I do remember when I first got in, because I knew none of these acronyms, I knew none of these agencies. This wasn't my background. And so I was immersed in all of these acronyms trying to get caught up very quickly. But the one that I knew the most was the one that was being said the most, and that was the CFPB. Now, fast forward 4.5 years, from that time, almost 5 years now, it's a very different story, although I do feel like we're in for a cyclonic, and not only that, we see it at the state level now, where I did not see that 5 years ago, but a lot came out of that period that impacted the industry and still has impact on the industry today.
No, it did. And unfortunately, I'm not a proponent that thinks that it was the right moves and it had a good impact on our industry. If you actually look at the cost to produce a loan, it was $9,700 according to the MBA at Q4 of 2018. In 2009, it was $3,700 to produce a loan. So the average cost to produce a loan, and I can tell you from, when I was in the banking side, we went from a compliance group and back office of, one main person and a couple assistants that could do a couple other jobs to 30 or 40 people in compliance overnight. And we had to throw in a whole new line of checkers to check the checkers. And the truth was, it didn't save people money. It costed every consumer more money. Everyone paid more money for it. And the bad, unscrupulous lenders or people who want to lie to people, they still can do it. Like there's still
amazing. I remember when there was talk that the CFPB may be disbanded or broken apart, especially as Trump was getting in. And I was seeing and reading articles that the banks really didn't want that. So there must have been something within that that setup that benefited the bank more than what the public really knew. It doesn't surprise me, but that's what I was reading as the CFPB had threats against it.
Yeah, I think the one thing the CFPB has done is at least set precedent of what people can do. And, at first they came out and they kind of had these loose rules. And it was, I went through it at the bank, and it was, it pushed down all the regulators, and it was more or less, if we think you're doing something wrong, we're going to fine you. We're not going to tell you what we think is wrong necessarily, because we may find some new things we don't even know we think is wrong, and we're going to say they're wrong. And once we do, you're going to have to pay a fine or, get in trouble for it. I think that's worked its way out. So maybe that, the relationship has changed, right? So the CFPB is not maybe as aggressive or authoritative with the banks, and they have a better work, which works better. Like banks, I don't know people that want to do the wrong thing. I mean, sure, of course they're out there. But most of the people, they want to do the right thing. They want to, be compliant. And if you can work with the banks and work with the lenders, I think that relationship's maybe gotten better. That's probably why.
I want to go back now to where you had finally talked us through at the beginning, getting to Insellerate, because that's where you are today. You've been there, I think, close to 7 years, maybe, or somewhere around in that time frame. Tell me a little bit, first of all, help me understand what is Insellerate, and once again, why did that need to be created? And did you create it at the beginning with the mindset of where it is today as a product, or has it evolved over the period of time? So just help me understand a little bit of that.
I mean, Insellerate, no, I did not create Insellerate as to where the product is today. When it first got built, it had no thought of ever selling to anybody else. So all the technology I built in previous, when I in 2004, 5, 6, I didn't sell to anyone else. People wanted to buy it. It never occurred to me to go sell my software to anyone else. And so what finally happened was, after I realized I had spent a lot of money myself building the technology, and there wasn't anyone else out there that did what I did, which is, I mean, we're CRM, lead management, engagement. We've had competitors in the place. We've been a pretty solid direct replacement for Velocify for a while now. So there was people that did some of the functionality, but not all of it. And I realized that was a need. And I had a few other friends that were lenders and would come in my office and look at the reader boards and our system and our sales manager reports and said, God, can I use this? Like, this would really help me in my business. Can I use it? And I sold it to a couple lenders and actually a couple outside of the mortgage industry, a couple other companies. Tested that for a year on what we call our legacy platform, which is old, completely different. We're on our fifth.
How many people were there at the time working with you?
That built the original platform?
Mm-hmm.
I had one programmer that built the original platform. Mm-hmm. One full-time guy built the original platform over about 4 years. It was in the interface. There had been about 5 different people that worked on the platform, but one person that was responsible for it. When we rebuilt it, we went to a team of over 10. So we rebuilt the platform from the ground up. We are now on our 5th complete version of Insellerate. We've built 5 different versions, and it was just our methodology. Legacy was great. We started building version number 2. Realized, hey, version number 2 is great, but we have a bigger demand. We need to build something that's more scalable. We started building version number 3. Microsoft Azure Platform and Service came out in the marketplace and said, there's all these new features we could build into our platform and make us more redundant. So we said, let's do it. We had to rebuild it again. And then just over the last 3 years, because of scale and some new functionality, we went back and rebuilt the code base a 5th time.
Yeah, I see a lot of companies who try to wrap up their old code into just making it newer and everything, and I remember I did work for a software company when I first got out of the Navy, and I just remember, some of the developers just getting so pissed that they had to come in and just unwind the spaghetti, and it just, to me, it made more sense. I do understand the operational constraints of trying to get from here to here and just playing catch up every day and why they do it that way. But it is interesting to know that you have taken that path that, hey, look, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And we're not going to have to, unwind things and try to incorporate it. Let's take what we know, but let's build on that with something that's fresh.
Yeah. I mean, we want to serve the market. That's, today and, tomorrow. That was really
what was interesting, and thank you for sharing that with me on Insellerate, and anything else you want to share here in a second, go ahead. But I was watching some of the previous interviews with you and some of the podcasts that you've been on, and there was a common theme, and I said this to you, I think, on the last time I talked to you, and it seemed like, although, and now it makes sense that you didn't even build this to be a customer-facing product, you built it for a whole different need. But when I listened to you, one of the things that I found that was common among all of those interviews or all of those podcasts that you were part of was that you feel some deep need to bring a better value to the consumer. And it seemed like that was more of a primary focus than even the user of the product. And maybe they go hand in hand. I can see that. But I also think that with that mentality of consumer first, the product always will be something that's valuable in the hands of the customer.
Yeah, I mean, the value chain starts with the consumer, right? It's how do you serve that consumer better? And, the whole industry, all industries have to change to serve the consumer better. Mm-hmm. I have this long, I like to use the analogy of Amazon and Sears. They're the same company. Sears was the original Amazon. They're the original company. You could buy a product from your home and order it, and it'd be delivered to your house. Look at it.
How many Christmases did I sit down and just dream in that big book, right?
So think about that.
Yeah.
Amazon didn't create some new thing to buy. They just said, this is how people are going to buy. It's convenient. So it has to be consumer facing. So you always have to think about, how do you make this better for the customer, make it easy for the customer? And then really, I will say I have a deep desire to help the lender and the mortgage company. And the reason, I've been a mortgage operator, so I was, I've been in business for 21 years. For 17 years, I was an operator. I really see value in that, and I understand what it's like to sit in that seat and understand what that's how you're helping loan officers feed their family. Like, that's a big thing. If I can help a loan officer because our technology closed 2-3 extra loans a month, that could be the difference in them sending their kids to college, taking extra vacations. There's a lot that we can do with that. So I see that, that's really where we want it. We help the consumer, because you have to give value to the consumer. And then the benefit is the loan officer and the mortgage company, right? They're benefiting from, better customer experience, means higher profitability, more customer service, more customers for life, more referrals, easier transactions, less customer complaints. So if we can really increase that value, that's what we try to do.
So, now that we know a lot about Insellerate, and thank you again for sharing that, I think some of these things, I can tell that, you're connected not just from a business guy trying to sell his business and the services that you have, but I'm talking about the fact that you're invested in this. You're invested in the community. You're invested in the industry. You're invested in the players in the industry. I have to believe that resonates in customer satisfaction and high adoption rate and things of that nature. We've only got a few more minutes left. I want to, you talked about. And forgive me, because I talked about, like, when I throw an acronym out there, I like to say what that acronym is. I said the CFPB earlier, and that's Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and so I just want to make sure that we get that out there. But you also threw one out, DTC, or direct to consumer.
Yeah.
And so help me understand, what does that mean, and why do you think that is maybe the next wave, or where the industry is going?
Yeah. So direct to consumer, or consumer direct, right? Those are the way people market it. So the mortgage industry for a long time and has been dominated by relationships, meaning retail loan officers either sitting at the bank branch or part of a mortgage company, and they're the ones that have sponsored the soccer team. They're dropping off cookies at the open house, open house flyers, and that was the vast majority of business was done that way. When technology started to change, that switched to consumer direct, which is loan officers sitting in an office, and instead of my loan officer having to be good at networking to bring leads in, me as a mortgage company, I can just be great at creating leads for them, whether I buy leads from LendingTree. So someone goes on LendingTree and I send the leads to my loan officers, or I do direct mail, or I do a radio spot, or anything else, television, billboard, print ads. And now I'm selling directly to those consumers without having to go build relationships. That's really the consumer direct spot. And why do I think that's where the market's going? Because every industry is going there right now. If you just look at the stats, go to Facebook or Instagram. The new infomercial, I love it, is now on Instagram, right? The new infomercial, you don't see infomercial anymore. You see them on Instagram. You see all or Facebook, these neat little gadgets, or shoes. Like, I've been talking a lot about the last 2 or 3 pairs of shoes. The last 3 shoes I've bought, brands, they've all been internet based, solely consumer direct. Nice brands of shoes. They don't sell them at Nordstrom's or any other place. They're marketing directly to consumers, right? With a great experience. You can buy this shoe, you can design the shoe, you can look at the colors, 360 spin it around. We'll have it to your house in 3 days. If you don't like it, free shipping, it goes right back to us. That's just the transaction everyone's already doing. Mattresses, food. Think about the Dollar Shave Club. People are able to really.
What is that?
Well, me neither. But people have really been able to skip the traditional methods. So all you really have to do, like, if you want to be in front of the market, you don't have to you don't have to think of where the market's going. You just look where the market's going and just kind of run and jump in front of them, and it'll catch up to you. And that's really where we're at right now, this consumer direct spot. Then in purchase transaction, that purchase transaction, I think, is where lenders are going to have the biggest surprise over the next 5 years of how quickly that changes to consumer direct.
Are you saying that people are going to do the entire process, purchase, walk through, everything online?
Yeah, well, yes, that will happen, but the loan side of right now. So
okay.
The purchase transactions are still dominated, 80% by a retail loan officer. Someone has a relationship with a realtor or is out in the street. That's changing, because you can no longer think that you have an exclusive relationship with a consumer, because if they go online to Zillow and they're looking at that house, what are they going to see? They're going to see 2 or 3 more ads about, get a loan from us. I mean, Zillow bought a mortgage company. Why do you think they did that? Because they know that people that are buying homes are now going to go to consumer direct. It's just the natural evolution where the market's heading right now.
Well, Josh, let me explain something to you. Although you have these aspirations of going back to college and getting that final degree so you could go teach, you are already a teacher. You've taught us all a lot of things today. The Big Short, I'm going to go back and read that because the movie was so interesting. And what you just explained to me, although there was a lot of things inside the movie that it was over my head. But at the end of the day, how you broke it down was certainly something I could understand. I love to talk to you about the journey. I think that's an interesting journey. I love to see those serial entrepreneurs talk about how the life started with them way back when you were just trying to get your own candy. That was certainly something I enjoyed. And, I got to be honest with you, this has been, and I want to also point out before we get off that you also have made a commitment to the council as one of our newest platinum members. And can I ask you just real quickly before we get off, why was that important for you?
I want to protect our consumer. And so I think having an organization like the council to give guidance to marketers and to set precedent and work with regulators, I think that's very important, because my customers make their living by marketing to consumers. And I see things like text messaging right now for the mortgage industry. It's very difficult because of bad actors.
Yes.
And I have mortgage companies, great companies, and they're having a hard time text messaging because they put the word mortgage in a text, because there's bad actors out there not doing what they should do. So I think that helping this community is only going to serve my lenders and any other companies we serve as well.
Yeah, I really thank you for the support. The council thanks you for the support, and I believe that it's going to be a great relationship as we continue to move on. Well, Josh, my friend, thank you very much for spending time today. This has been really exciting for me to get to know more about you. I think people are going to really be excited to listen to this, and they'll learn something about you maybe they didn't know. So thank you for joining us. One last time, is there anything I left off or something you want to plug or throw out there while we have the time?
No, this was great. I appreciate the time, Rob. And I mean, obviously, lenders, you want to reach out to us, go to our website, ask for a demo, see someone, talk to someone. I can tell you right now, we are growing like crazy.
That's awesome.
We've added over 50 lenders in the last 18 months, 30 of them so far in the last 5 months, and we're probably on pace to add another 50 by the year end.
That's incredible, especially during these times, right? Oh, yeah. I mean, if you were to script it out ahead of time in January, you would not have been able to come out with this outcome. I'm sure of it.
Probably not. You're right.
Very crazy. Well, Josh, thank you very much, and I can't wait to get this thing edited and out. You can find it on the LeadsCouncil.org website under our Events Hub tab, and thank you very much, Josh.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. Take care.